All right, so it's time to install this front suspension stuff. And now that I have the parts sitting out, it's really not that complicated, which is kind of what makes this kit cool. Just a simple suspension setup. Let's get this stuff slammed on there. I'm not gonna put grease on there yet because I'm still gonna have to do some welding to mount the engine and all that stuff. But we'll get this stuff temporarily installed and we'll get it back sitting on its own weight. All right, that went in extremely quick. That was crazy. This came out really, really good. It's wild to see such a sophisticated system on a crazy old truck. And what's cool is that this will be all kind of hidden. So it'll have like modern, maybe even like kind of sports car type, or at least car type handling. And you'll never know unless you pop the hood or maybe like peek underneath. Cool. Okay. I'm really happy with this. Obviously this is just kind of mocked up, but I think it's good to put some wheels and tires on it and kind of see where this thing is going to sit. Kind of a, I don't know, moment of truth, I guess. Okay, first impressions, she's very low, but these are also very small tires, and I do have the coil springs, whatever, coilovers sitting at their lowest point, so I can probably raise it up just a little bit. And I've got a serious positive camber issue, so it's pretty obvious to me that I got these backwards. I think that these things are supposed to sit on the backside of this. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and fix that. That was my bad, but this thing's sitting on its wheels, man. This is exciting. It looks cool. It looks cool. It looks good. Okay, well, that was not the problem. This thing does not go on the back side, it goes on the front side. And it looks like I might have gotten the wrong top hat thing, whatever, this top mount. I guess there's two types. There's one that has this a little bit forward and a little bit backward. No big deal. These types of things happen. But instead of exchanging them, it's actually kind of an easy thing to fix. I just got to cut it off right there, re-weld it back on just a little bit inward. In fact, I can dial in my camber while doing that. I can kind of like slide that back, get it right where it's supposed to be. Okay, cool. I'm going to do that. Shouldn't take long, and we'll be back in business. All right, let me show you what I got going on here. As you might have noticed, I went ahead and cut off both of the top hats, which was kind of an ordeal. There was something that was kind of on my mind. I wanted to dial in the caster angle on this guy, or increase the caster angle. So your caster angle is the angle like this way, like the pivot of your wheel. You want it definitely I don't know if that's positive or negative. You definitely want it this way a little bit. That's extremely important for the stability of the car. I've dealt with cars with not great caster angles and they suck to drive. What I did was I put a line in between the middle of the ball joint down here and then the top ball joint. And you can see that that is somewhere around the neighborhood of 5 degrees. But there's actually an easier way to measure this. If you just go like this should be a flat plane right here. Almost exactly 5 degrees, which is perfect. You don't want that top hat in the very center. You want it set back just a little bit. And you can clearly see the slope of this thing. This should make the truck a lot more stable at high speeds, like on the freeway, which is very important because this thing is going to be a tow rig for me. And stability is the name of the game. So we'll get this thing tacked in, then we'll do some adjusting on the camber, and then we should be good. Okay, I got this thing tacked in there. As you can see, set back quite a bit more. And I think we're in a good spot now. We've got about 2.5 degrees of positive camber, I think, whatever, the tilt back direction. When you go up to ride height, it's close to zero. It's exactly zero. Yeah, so, it's not race car, 4 degrees camber or whatever, but it's definitely truck 1 degree or maybe 0 camber, so I think we're pretty darn good. I cannot go backwards anymore because I'm kind of at the end of the line back here. Right there. And I'm also kind of at the end of the line up here. Kind of filed that down just a little bit to get some clearance, but I like it. I think this is going to be just fine. Now we got to do the whole thing all over again on the other side. All right, I got these things fully welded on here, and the welding came out a lot better the second time. Look at that stack of dimes, son. I also went ahead and put on some, I don't know what you would call these, like reinforcements, gussets, whatever, on the back of these. I didn't really have enough of a lip here to make a triangle, so I kind of just put something on there. I'm thinking that will help. It can't hurt, that's for sure. For sure it's going to give it some sort of, because I'm thinking the control arm's going to want to push this way, and I guess pull that way too. This thing will give it a little bit more rigidity. Looks pretty trick too. I figured I might as well do that since I was the one who re-welded these and not the guy. This is awesome. This actually came out pretty good. This was a lot of work, but it was cool. It was fun. And this is something I've never ever done before. I feel like this was very confidence building, and I do have some crazier suspension stuff planned for my next build. So I guess we can now bolt this back together. Still will be mock-up because I want to get engine in here. I want to get everything in here before I do like final paint and all that stuff. But we'll get this thing on its wheels and hopefully it'll be sitting pretty straight. All right, this thing looks so much better. There's definitely some negative camber here, which is good. You'll see we're at like 2 degrees, maybe just, yeah, about 2 degrees. That's kind of a rough, even less. Yeah, it's kind of a rough estimate, but 2 degrees negative camber is actually pretty close to spec. But what's important is that this is absolutely the most negative camber we can get. We can adjust, or the guys that do this, I'm going to take it into a shop, and then they can shim that guy out and dial it in perfectly. This was a huge success, and this just looks so good, man. I'm very excited with how this turned out. Looks freaking awesome. But of course, this is just kind of mocked up. I mean, it will roll, of course. There are no brakes, so I got to remember that. The next thing is to get those engine mounts in, which means you got to get this bad boy down and get it ready to install. Okay, today's the day. We have so much space here. This is gonna be, I won't say the easiest engine install that we've done, but this will definitely be the most space we've had to do an engine install. First step is to redo the rear main seal. Yeah, because there is a little bit of a mystery oil leak in this thing. Oh yeah, she's leaky. Look at that.
I like when there's a lot of bolts being taken out and you do the editing where it's just like back to back and then they come off. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. There we go. That's a little easier. It's easy when you're going out from the backside. That's what she said. All right, I'm gonna put RTV on this rear main seal. Probably don't need to. You're probably gonna call me stupid for doing it, but you know what this thing's not gonna do? It's not gonna leak, ever, when I do this. The rear main seal is one of the most miserable places to have an oil leak. I can't be the only person that does this. Wipe off the excess. You always have to show me cleaning these surfaces, otherwise I get yelled at in the comments. You didn't clean it. I cleaned it.
It's clean.
I was just too lazy to film it. And she goes. I don't know why that was what popped into my head. I'm an idiot. At least we don't have to hold out the fly edge. And then I guess let's set it on that. Scoot it up. That's actually pretty close. Whew. It's a workout, boy. Ooh, there it goes. The engine is installing itself.
Pen.
Okay. I mean, it's not far. Oh, dude, look. Look at it go. Look at that, baby.
Oh, wow.
Dude. Okay. No notching. We get to keep the big truck oil pan. Who would have thought?
Got horrible lighting.
No, that's, my face is shadowed because of the shame of putting a Chevrolet motor, excuse me, Cadillac motor into a Ford truck. But just take a look at that and tell me that's not supposed to go there. Would Henry Ford have built this truck like this if he hadn't planned on putting an LS motor in it? I don't think so. Okay, this is pretty close. Let's see how close the angle is. And this truck is at an extreme rake, so I think that this thing is going to have to tilt forward a lot. Let's check it over here first, because I know this is supposed to be a 0 angle. Okay, we're at 2 here. I guess it's going to get complex depending on ride height. Yeah, I'm trying to get this thing kind of like level. I feel like I have room for 2 transmissions down here. Let's see what, that maybe is too high. Let's see what angles we're looking at. I mean, I guess we don't have that much of a rake. We're at like 2 degrees. 2.1. 2.3. That's pretty even. We can have a little bit of a downward degree. I think usually you would have like 1 or 2 downward. I made the rear axle straight. However, there is an bit of axle deflection under load. You can actually have it off and down by like 2 degrees. Okay, we got this thing sitting absolutely, literally laser straight in here. We got that going right down the center of the crankshaft bolt, right down the center of this, and no matter how you measure it, this thing is dead nuts centered. 10 1/4 from the crankshaft, or sorry, 10 doesn't really matter, but 10 3/4. This thing is exactly centered at 14.75, 14 3/4 right there. And then when I go crawl under from the frame down there, the very center line of the transmission is exactly at 14 3/4. So this frame is very, very square, and this motor is absolutely square in it. 1.5 degrees. Solid, man. All right, so tomorrow, grab some steel plate and maybe some C-channel at the steel supply place. Okay, I just got back from the metal supply store. That place is awesome. This one's a 1/4-inch plate right here. So I'm gonna cut 2 mounting plates like that using these guys as templates. I got some big old square tube, like I think 3/16 inch. I'm gonna cut it at an angle, make a shelf hanging off here, and then make a shelf down here. Let me just start building, and I think you'll understand. Okay, I've got this little thing here. I mean, partly by design, but mostly by luck. This thing is like barely just the right size for the frame, and it actually wedges in there pretty tight. So I'm gonna hammer this thing in, get it level, tack welded, and then we're good. Okay, I've got this thing at exactly, almost exactly 0, right where I want it. And yeah, right at 0. But I was thinking that there's like quite a bit of unnecessary steel. I drew a line. I'm gonna pull this back out of there, and I'm gonna cut a little thing to give myself a little more clearance for these guys, and then I'll do the other side exactly the same so that I have clearance for the steering shaft. Yeah. Okay, got this little shelf thing here, and I got myself a mock-up engine mount. It's just a hair shorter than this guy, because I figured this thing is going to squish just a little bit. But anyway, we got clearance and we can always shim it. So now I just got to get this thing tack welded on here at the right height, angle. Doesn't have to be perfect, I think, at this point, because this thing's made out of rubber for a reason. It's supposed to wiggle a little bit, but I might as well get this thing as level as possible. Okay, here we go. First time setting it down on its own weight. Let's see how it does. Yeah. This thing is sitting on its engine mounts. It looks straight. Let's check measurements. That's actually very important. Okay, we're looking good. Within a 1/16 of an inch center. And this is important. Right there. We're exactly perfectly level. This thing is officially mounted. I guess except for the transmission. We'll do that later. This is cool. This is awesome.